Welcome to the Creative Warriors Podcast, the heart and soul of photography. I'm Ariel, Faith, your host. We are welcoming back Janoiris, and we are talking about this week. Welcome back, Janioris.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And we're talking about different elements of photography and how in her particular genre, how she might use those elements or how they play a key role in her work and how it helps her with the expression, not only helping the woman that is her client, but also the visuals that you end up with at the other side, right? Because the photos are your end product, but for you, the experience is probably 90% of it, I would think.
I would agree. I think that, I love the artwork we get to provide for the clients, because there's just something different about seeing yourself in print versus on a digital image. But definitely the experience is a major part of it. And I think some of my clients would be good to walk out after the experience and be fine with it. But the anticipation of seeing the photos won't let them. So
very true. So when you are working and you're thinking about your client, there's kind of like there's different creative techniques. And I'm going to mention a bunch of them, but I want you to pick a couple of them and talk about how they play a very important role in your particular genre and what you do. So we have things like light, we have color, line, shape, point of view, we have quality of the moment, and we have story. And then of course, things like contrast. So those are just visual elements that we use in photography, right? Or any kind of art to draw attention, etc. So how have those played a key role in this particular genre? Are there some that are more strong? I would think storytelling would be very important. That's just what I think. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll mention one that I don't know if I heard you mention, but one of the most important aspects when it comes to the visual telling of these stories is shadow.
Okay.
So shadows, when it comes to boudoir, or, maybe it could fall under contrast or lighting.
Light, yeah.
Yeah. But shadows are super, super pivotal when it comes to this genre of boudoir, because shadows help to reveal and conceal on a woman's body in a way that is natural without a bunch of post-production and additional editing. So if you have a good understanding of shadows and light, then you're really able to highlight the best of a woman's features and of a woman's body without having to do a lot of manipulation on the post end, which to me is super important. I don't over manipulate my photos because it would be counterproductive to what I'm trying to show them. I'm trying to teach them body confidence. If I morph their bodies and manipulate the photos to the point that they're irrecognizable, then I'm basically communicating this is what would actually be beautiful,
Right.
It's not what you really look like. This manipulated version is your best self, which it wouldn't really work with it. So
No.
I try to stick to the most natural, obviously a polished look that feels professional, but I'm not changing or morphing women at all. So my best sort of tool in my arsenal is shadow and light. And then add to that just posing. Posing is super important when you do this kind of photography. So I can't hide behind outfits. I can't, or clothing or props necessarily, or I try not to, because I'm really focused on the woman and how beautiful she is in her essence. So I try not to have too many extra props or try to, because she is exposed in a lot of ways, obviously to her comfort. There's all kinds of ranges of how much women choose to be exposed in their photos, but there's only so much you can do to hide or to, or to work with an outfit when it comes to lingerie, right?
Right.
So I think that those two elements are super important to me. So learning shadows, learning the perspective of which areas of a woman's body, depending on her insecurities or her favorite areas of her body, and how to highlight those with posing and with shadows and light, I think is super essential to what I do.
Okay. Just on a technical perspective, do you use like a strobe or do you use continuous lighting?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've shot all kinds of, in fact, when I started shooting boudoir, I actually was doing beach photos, like sunrise and sunset. So that was all natural light when I started. Then I moved over to a studio that had natural light. So it was just big old window lighting, with like diffusers and stuff, but like, for but not any additional lighting. And then when I moved into my own studio, we did sort of like a faux window. So with LED lights, and it created sort of like that feeling of a window light, but that was my only light source. Now I have an 8200, a Godox 8200, and that's my main source of light. It's on a big old parabolic umbrella, with a big old diffuser, and that's my main source of light. And every once in a while, I will incorporate when you're talking about storytelling, one of those elements is like if I have certain lights in the room that make it feel more cinematic, like the light in the room is still existent, or you have different temperatures of light. So like you might have like a window light, but also a lamp over here in the back. So for storytelling in that cinematic view, I might use a mixture of those things. Like I'll use lighting that is different temperatures, or sometimes like I'll use, like I could use a tube light, or I even have ring lights that are with colors, with different RGBs to create that neon look, or to create different highlights of, like key lights of different colors. So there's all kinds of ways to play with lighting. I think also because shadows are so important and can be played off a lot more in this genre, you actually can get away with really cheap sources of lighting, different ways to do lighting that maybe a portrait photographer or a wedding photographer might have to invest a little bit more in, much more pro lighting. But for boudoir, you could really get away with some very minimal and very kind of creative sort of light sources that may not fly with other kind of portraiture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. So what about these experiences have helped you become more expressive in your work? Because capturing the heart of a woman through her eyes and through her posing, et cetera. I mean, bringing that woman out in that photograph is a skill. And not everyone, even though they might be good at taking photos, they're not pulling the person out. So what are you doing, or is there any techniques that you're willing to share that kind of you've learned are very powerful in helping the woman like come out of the experience rather than feeling like, oh, do I have to pose? And, they get stiff. And
Yes. Okay. So a few things with that. Number one is we offer complimentary hair and makeup, right? Okay. So I'm always there during hair and makeup. And this is super important because I'm building rapport with my client. Some of my clients come along and they've never met me before. They've followed me for a long time, or they've been in the groups or what have you, but this is the first time they see me in real life. And so when I open my door, we're instant besties, and I'm saying, hey, can I hug you? And I'm super energetic, and it just feels like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's not like it's going to feel like this is a professional, but we're friends, it's fine. Yes. And so then I'm with her and we're conversing throughout hair and makeup. And this is important because I get to hear how she talks about herself, how she talks about her kids or her husband or whoever, what's important to her. Women, we love talking. And if you've ever sat on a salon chair, you know that in the salon, somehow something happens. I don't know what it is. Something happens when you sit in a salon chair and everything comes out, doesn't it? Right? You just kind of trust. So during hair and makeup, it takes about an hour and a half. That's an hour and a half I get of building rapport with my client, of listening to what's valuable to her, of listening to what are her problem areas, because somehow, some way, things are going to come out naturally in conversation, which is also why it's super valuable to me to have somebody who's not only skilled at hair and makeup, but is really a good conversationalist. And it's an extension of my brand when it comes to someone that does hair and makeup, because we both need to be able to converse in a way that makes, lets her guard down and makes her feel comfortable enough to then later take off her clothes. Right. So that's a very important bracket of time. So that's part of what helps a ton. Listening to her, asking the right questions, having that time of rapport. And then once we come out, I'm her biggest hype woman, right? So when she comes out in that first outfit, I'm the ultimate cheerleader. I never want her to feel like I have something to correct or something to do differently. I am just a hype woman. And she automatically, I think, feels less pressure because she knows, hey, I'm not really looking at what you think I'm looking at. I'm just, I'm really just operating in a different, And I think also one of the things that helps is that now the more time passes and the more women I work with, I know what we need, not only because I'm a woman myself, but I know what she needs in that moment. I've worked with all kinds of body types now, all kinds of skin colors, all kinds of hair textures, all kinds of women at this point, all different ages. And so I know kind of what a woman, obviously, generally speaking, every woman has her own specific needs, but generally speaking, in a certain category, you have certain needs more than others, right? Like a mama who just had a baby and is recent postpartum, I know her specific needs of encouragement and motivation that are different to a woman who's coming in who feels like, who maybe is more mature in age and has a different body type and is coming in to explore a different aspect of herself, if that makes sense. So that has helped me. The more time I spend with women, the more I'm capable of catering to their needs in each category. And then she comes out, I'm a total hype woman. And then throughout the whole time, right before we start shooting, I give her a quick rundown. I say, hey, I just want you to know that you don't have to know how to look sexy. I've got you. I will tell you how to breathe. Okay. Like I will tell you everywhere from your head to your toes. I see everything. You don't have to think about anything. The photos will look sexy, but you don't have to try to be sexy right now. Right now, we're just being girls and it's super fun. I have music playing in the background. I have the Ultimate Girls playlist, and it's just really energetic, lots of fun. That way there's not a whole lot of time for her to sit and think too much. We women, we don't need space to think that much, right? We are already thinking on overdrive. So she's I'm not giving her all that kind of space. I'm constantly motivating and encouraging. I'm correcting constantly because it is true. I really do have a pretty meticulous eye when it comes to seeing all the details. I pose her from her head to her toes. I tell her exactly, I'm giving instruction constantly. And then, like I said, and then when I flip that camera over, she's able to trust me and say, oh, okay, wow, I'm looking great. I don't have to be too worried. So I think that helps a ton. Having that time on hair and makeup, being her ultimate hype woman, and then taking care of the posing and making sure she knows that she doesn't have to bear the pressure of looking a certain way. I'm the professional here is what I'm basically saying with my actions. I'm encouraging, right. I'm the professional. You don't have to figure it out. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to show you exactly what to do. You can trust me. It's going to look great.
Awesome. That's really cool. Okay. We're going to come back again and we're going to talk about some more expressive and exploration, some of the effects you might use in your work, contrast, energy, and other elements. So we will be back again.
Fun.
If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Janioris and the work she does, go to her website, janioris.com. There you can find educational programs, events, and her podcast. F is for female, and I will leave information where you can find her on socials and her website address.
If you enjoyed this podcast, The Creative Warriors, the female heart and soul of photography, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the conversation going. Stay curious and have a happy artistic journey. Thank you for listening to the Creative Warriors podcast, the female heart and soul of photography. See you next episode.